Good morning, students. Welcome to Real Analysis lectures. In this lecture, we'll discuss about open and closed sets in a metric space. Okay, so let's start with basic definitions. Uh, Consider a metric space M comma D. Then we say that a set N is said to be a neighborhood of a point X of a metric space M if usually at least what we sense is neighborhood means it should be that set should be very close to X, in the sense that if we should able to find a ball around X of some radius such that which will be completely contained in N. Okay, then we say that such this set N is a neighborhood of X. So we say, suppose you call it, this is a set N, then we say that a X, suppose you call it is very near to that, such that a ball around X should be completely contained in that N. Okay, then we say that it is a neighborhood of X. So if you observe neighborhood of X, so X should be in that N, right? Because B of X always contains X, right? Yeah. Okay. Now if you see some examples, every ball bx epsilon is actually a neighborhood of X. Okay, because if you see this bx epsilon, so we are considering a ball, this is, say, suppose this is X and this is epsilon. We want to show that it is a neighborhood of X. That is clear because X belongs to bx epsilon. If you want to find a little smaller one, then you take epsilon by 2 here, then this is clearly contained in this. Okay, right, you take any epsilon, any value less than epsilon, then it will work here. Okay, fine. Now what is meant by an open set? We say that a set U is open if U is neighborhood of each of its points. That means if you take any X in U, then there should exist an epsilon, okay, positive value, such that the ball around X of this epsilon radius should be completely contained in U. Of course, we know what is that X is always there in Bx epsilon, right? So a set is said to be open if given any point X in U, we should able to find some ball around X which is completely contained in U. Okay, then we say that it is an open set. Okay, even if it fails for one element, then that cannot be an open set, right? The trivial examples are obviously the whole metric space M and empty set. This can be considered as trivial open sets. Uh, the first one is because every ball is subset of M, so there is nothing to prove. And empty set, there is no element in that, so we no need to justify that solution. Okay. Non-trivial examples, if we come, you take R with usual metric. Okay, that means mod x minus y. Okay, then every open interval is an open set. Okay, that means you take a comma b, we want to show that, so our claim is this a comma b is an open set. So what is meaning of that? Take any point here, then somehow we want to show that a ball around X, so in this case an open interval x minus epsilon comma x plus epsilon should be, so the idea is this is your a comma b and somewhere we have X. So what we want to find is we should able to find some epsilon such that x minus epsilon and x plus epsilon, this should be completely lie in A. That gives an idea how we can select this epsilon, right? So we want to find an epsilon such that this x minus epsilon is in between here. Okay, A should be less than, so we want to find an epsilon such that this happens, right? So that means epsilon should be less than a minus x minus A. right? Similarly, epsilon you have to select in such a way that x plus epsilon should be less than b, so therefore your epsilon should be less than b minus x, right? So what you do is you take the minimum. That's how we got epsilon, so which is minimum of x minus a and b minus x. Then epsilon is less than or equal to x minus a and epsilon is less than or equal to b minus x. So if we try to understand through picture, then the proof obviously follows. It is not at all difficult one, right? How we can find epsilon is important thing, right? Now if you take any open interval ray, okay, unbounded open interval, then say suppose a to infinity, okay, this much. Then if you take any x, what you require is only this much condition. So take your epsilon as x minus a, then this much will be always there, which is contained here. So you get that a comma infinity is open. Similarly, minus infinity to b also open. Hence, every open interval in R is an open set, right? Okay. Now you can observe that this, in the sense we can say that this 0 comma 1 is not an open set. This close 0 and open 1, okay, is not an open set, because why? Even though this 0 comma 1 is open, so only problem you can observe here is at that point 0, right? So how it look like? This is 0 and here it is 1, okay. So only problem with not being open is this point x, okay. This is your x equal to 0. So you can observe that if you take any neighborhood around, so for that purpose, so let me say it, we'll put it somewhere here, x is equal to 0 and 1, okay. Now if you take any open interval or any neighborhood around 0, which is minus epsilon to plus epsilon, you can see that this part, this much part, okay, is outside this 0 comma 1, right? That shows that minus epsilon comma epsilon, minus epsilon to epsilon, here you can see this, okay, minus epsilon to epsilon is not containing 0 comma 1, because if at all it is the case, then epsilon should be less than 0, which is not possible. Epsilon is greater than 0, right? Okay. Now what about next one? Every time we, as I said, we discuss about if M is a discrete metric space. If M is a discrete space, then you can see that it has huge collection of open sets. That means every set, so in a discrete metric space, every subset of M is open. Okay, that is clear, because you take A is any subset of M. Now, if we want to show that you take any X in A, we want to show that there exists a ball which is completely contained in A. But in discrete metric space, you can always have balls which is singleton X. What is that? If you take radius, for example, 1 or less than 1, it is always there, right? So that shows that every subset of M is open in a discrete metric space, okay. So you have huge collection of open sets in a discrete metric space. Fine. Now we also show that if you take a metric space M comma D, then this ball Bx epsilon, okay, this is always an open set. So you take any ball around epsilon, then it is going to be always an open set, okay. How? For example, uh, just okay, put it a little bigger. Fine. So this is one ball. Okay. Now, if this is, say, this is your x and this much is your epsilon, we want to show that this is an open set. So that means if you take any y in this, so suppose you call it somewhere here is y, okay, then somehow we want to find an open ball around y which is completely contained here. That means if we can observe that this much part if we take, okay, then and if we construct a ball around this, then it will lie inside this. Okay, but what is this distance? How we can get this distance is that obviously from here to, if this is your x, okay, uh, we use some another color. So we know that this much is our epsilon. Okay, then whatever here to here is how much, from this point to this point is obviously distance between x comma y. So if you, from epsilon, if you subtract this distance x comma y, okay, we know it is clearly greater than 0, that you take it as your new ball radius. So this is your delta. So delta you take it as epsilon minus d of x comma y. That is the idea. Then you can easily check that this ball is contained in this original ball, and showing that one is not at all difficult one. Use just triangle inequality, take any point z here, then this is there, and use this delta and simplify it, and use triangle equality to get, and that is not a typical. Okay, what is important here is how we can select for ball around y such that it will be completely lie inside, right? Okay, next one, this, you take any open set u, okay, a subset which is open in a metric space, then we can write u as union of open balls contained in u. Okay, so that means u we can write as union of ball around x, some epsilon, some open ball, some epsilon, okay, where this ball is completely contained in. So in the other sense, if you try to understand geometrically, this is u. So what you are going to say is that you try to take balls, okay, and take all their unions. While I'm writing, make sure that it is not going outside, okay, and takes all such things. You can observe that for smaller balls and so on. Okay, you can cover this u, that is the idea. And proving is not at all difficult one way is obvious. So take x is in u, then because u is open, there exists a ball around x which is contained in u. So that means if you take u and if you take any x, then we can find a ball around x, right? So therefore this, if you take union of such things, this bx epsilon is contained in union of such balls, because that is also one of that ball in this collection, right? That shows that u is, that means if you take any point in u, definitely there will be one ball because of open set where that point is there. So that means u is nothing but union of such balls, right? Okay, we use these things again and again many times. But it says that u, an open set, can be written as union of open balls which are completely contained in this. So we are not considering about a ball, so we are not considering a ball such thing. So this is not in our case. Okay. Yes. Now, some of the simple properties of open sets is arbitrary union of open sets is open. That means if u alphas are open, then union of u alpha where alpha is in any indexing set is also open. This is not at all difficult to prove. You take any you take an element x in V, then x will be there in one of the open set. Okay, then there exists, for this being an open set, there exists a ball, but union, it is contained in union of u alpha which is V. So therefore this ball is completely contained in V. Okay, when it comes to intersection, the finite intersection, okay, this is always open, and proof is not at all difficult one. What you can see here is that if you take x, you call it, this is v. So if x is in v, we want to find a ball around x which is completely contained in v, right? So if x is in v, then x is in ui, okay, for every I, because it is an intersection, right? So the idea is because ui is open, you get a ball around x in each ui, right? Then we will, from that we will try to find one ball which is there in each and every ui, so therefore it will be there in intersection, right? So how you will find that this bx, you can call it epsilon I, is contained in ui. Okay, so if one ball is there in u1 and the other ball is there in u2 and so on, from that remember x is common, x is center point for all such balls. Okay, so therefore you can always make sure that you can find a smaller ball which is contained in u1 as well as u2 as well as un and so on, right? How you can do that? Say for example, you take this is your v, okay, this is your x, just for your understanding. This is a ball around x of epsilon 1 which is contained in, okay, so say call it this is u1, okay, this is u1, right? And mm, you take another set which is u2, if you want you can call it this itself is u2, right? Then this is a ball, this is a ball bx epsilon 2 and this is bx epsilon 1. Then what we do is you find a ball is smaller than this which is there in both, okay, that is the idea. So obviously you take the epsilon, you take epsilon as minimum of epsilon 1 epsilon 2 epsilon n. Then you can see that this ball around bx epsilon is contained in bx epsilon I for every I. But each bx epsilon I is contained in ui. That shows that bx epsilon is contained in ui for all I. That is same as saying that it is contained in intersection of ui which is v. Therefore, v is open, right? So why only finite intersection open sets is open? You can easily check that. You take this R in real line, okay, in real line, then you consider this you open sets minus 1 by n comma 1 by n. The first one is minus 1 and then 1. That means your u1 is minus 1 comma 1, u2 is minus half to half, u3 is minus 1 by 3 comma 1 by 3. So you can see that they are getting smaller and smaller. What is u2? Okay, the moment it is half, so therefore this is your u2, okay, this is minus half to half. Then something like this is minus 1 by 3 and then 1 by 3. So if you see, it is going closer and closer, closer and closer, closer. So your interval size becomes smaller and smaller, and you can easily show that 0 will be always there in every set whatever we have given here, because this 1 by n, if you take minus 1 by n, then uh, then because yes, sorry, 0 is always strictly bigger than minus 1 by n and less than 1 by n for every n. So that shows that 0 belongs to minus 1 by n comma 1 by n for every n, right? So there will be always one element, and but at least you can sense that by n is large and large, there are no other elements than 0. So this intersection will become singleton 0. So what you have to do is you just exercise prove that uh, there is no element, okay, if a is greater than 0, if a is greater than 0, then a cannot be there in intersection. By using Archimedean property you can prove that, okay. So that means try to show that if at all it is there, then you get some contradiction and so, okay. Fine. Now we'll about a real one. So that means if you take u, which is open subset of R, then we can write u as countable union of, u can be written as countable union of disjoint open intervals, okay. That means you can write this here is like in, where I is from n is from 1 to n, where each in is a open interval, okay, and in intersection im is empty whenever n is different from n, right? How we do this is the following. First we show that u can be written as union of some disjoint open intervals about some indexing set, okay, and that indexing set will show it is countable, okay. Yes. So take any x in u. If you have x in u, then we show that there exists a maximal open interval, big largest interval open interval, okay, such containing x such that x is in ix. If you want you can call it this as ix, which is contained in u. What is meant by saying maximal? So that is maximal if at all, if x is in I is any open interval containing x and containing u, then I should be contained in Ix. And using this such type of intervals, we will form the union, our U as union of such intervals. Okay, but this is not at all difficult to prove. What we have to do is you take the set Ax all left endpoint. So some A will be here if this set A comma x is completely contained in U. Similarly, the other way is Bx, the other end starting from x to open B, if it is completely contained in U, then you call it as Bx, and you call it small ax as infimum of this set and small bx as supremum of this set. And consider your Ix, then Ix is going to be this one, Ax comma Bx. Okay. Yes. So then we can show that this Ix is going to be a maximal open interval contained in U. Okay. So first we can show that this is obviously x contains Ix, x is belongs to Ix, and Ix is contained in U. Because U is open, we know that there exists some epsilon such that x minus epsilon to x plus epsilon is contained in U. Okay, that in the sense is same as saying that x minus epsilon to open x is complete closed x, and also closed x to x plus epsilon, right? This is also contained in U, right? That means this x minus epsilon is an element of Ax and x plus epsilon is an element of Bx, right? But infimum is this Ax is infimum and Bx is supremum. That shows that Ax is less than or equal to x minus epsilon and x plus epsilon is less than or equal to Bx. By this shows that x belongs to Ix, right? Yes. Now, why Ix is contained in U? That is also you can easily check that if you take any element y in Ix, we can show that y is in U, right? How we can prove that? Because y is in Ix, right? So therefore, obviously y is strictly between Ax and Bx. Now, what we know about Ax? Ax is infimum of this set. That means it is greatest lower bound. So if you take anything bigger than that, it cannot be a lower bound. So therefore, y is not a lower bound, right? Similarly, Bx is supremum, so it is least upper bound. Therefore, y cannot be an upper bound for this set Bx, right? Now, using that fact, when we say that something is not a lower bound or not an upper bound, there exists an element from this set Ax and there exists an element in Bx satisfying this condition. That shows that y belongs to A comma B, right? Now, whether A comma B is contained in U is the question. But because A is in Ax, that means this A comma X is contained in U. Similarly, B is in Bx, so by that definition, X comma B is contained in U. That shows that this A comma B, which is exactly union of these two, is also contained in U, right? So therefore, Y is here and y A comma B is contained in U, therefore y belongs to U, right? That shows that Ix is maximum is a open interval contained in U. Now to prove maximality, you take any open interval satisfying this condition, right? And you can call it that open interval as Ai comma Bi, right? Therefore x is in Ai comma Bi, so you can easily see that Ai to x, okay, is contained in U. Similarly, x to Ai is contained in that, right? That shows that this Ai comma Bi is contained in Ax comma Bx, which is Ix, right? So therefore I is contained in Ix, right? Fine. Now what we have shown is that for every x in U, okay, there exists an open interval Ix contained in U, okay, such that this of course x belongs to Ix. That means you can write that U is union of Ix, whatever we have proved earlier that theorem, any, because these Ix are all open balls, right? Okay, so therefore U becomes union of Ix. Now it may happen that this for different x and y, this Ix and Iy may have some common values. But what we show is either they are completely disjoint or they are completely equal. That we will prove it. So Ix intersection Iy is either empty or they are same. Okay, so whenever they are same, then we can drop out from this and we can make sure that that union is disjoint union, right? So if at all, so suppose assume that this Ix intersection Iy is non-empty. That means if it contains one element, then we can show that they are actually equal. So if Z belongs to Ix intersection Iy, then Z is in Ix as well as Z is in Iy, right? So therefore, Z is a common point of Ix and Iy. So whenever Ix and Iy are open intervals, okay, and they have some common, which is namely z belongs to ix intersection iy. From that you can easily show that this ix union iy is also an open interval. So if you have two intervals, if they have at least one point in common, okay, right, so if they have at least one point in common, then if you take their union, then this is also an open interval. That is the idea. But if they don't have a point in common, then union need not be an open interval, right? Union need not be an interval. Okay, so therefore we got that ix union iy is an open interval, and of course it contains this x because ix contains x. So x belongs to ix union iy, okay, and it is also contained in u, and ix is maximum. Therefore ix union iy should contain in ix, but we know this is obvious. Ix is always contained in union, right? That shows that ix union iy is nothing but they are equal, right? Similarly you can prove that ix union iy is equal to iy. That shows that ix is equal to iy, right? So what we proved is that whenever they have one point in common, then they have every point in common, so they are equal, right? So by dropping out those points, whichever for every x comma y, if ix is equal to iy, you drop only consider as one point, then you can write u as disjoint union of open intervals. Say u is equal to union of, instead of writing now x here, we'll write j, where j is in some indexing set, okay. Now we show that this indexing set j, okay, so our claim is we'll show that this j is countable. So once this j become countable, then u will become countable union of such sets, okay, right? What we can observe is that because of this ij, every ij is an interval, every ij is an open interval, like aj, what is that notation? Yeah, ax comma bx, right? So here aj comma bj, we know every open interval contains infinitely many, uncountably many irrationals. So we can find a rational number rj. So you can find a rational number rj in this one, okay. Then because this ij intersection ii is different, now in this collection whatever we have same we have dropped out. So all this collection is a disjoint collection, right? So if you take I is different from j, this indexing, then obviously this ij and ii, their intersection is completely empty, they don't have any element in common, and we are picking a rational number from one interval and another rational number from another interval. So you get that ri is not equal to rj, they are two different rational numbers. That shows that if you have two uh, elements I comma j in this j indexing set, I where I and j are in this indexing set, okay, then we are getting two rational numbers ri and rj. Ri and rj, they are rational numbers, okay. So it says that two different values are going to two different rational numbers, hence we get an 1 1 map from j to q, simply send j to rj, okay. So therefore this becomes a 1 1 map from j into q. So this j sits inside q with this mapping, okay, as q is countable and j is a subset of this or image of that one, okay. We can see that j is countable, okay, because j is countable and u is based on indexing of this j, hence u is the countable union of disjoint open intervals, okay. So it is a beautiful theorem that any open set in R can be written as countable union of disjoint open intervals of that form, right? Fine. Now we quickly see some relation between open set and convergent sequence. Okay, so we say that U is open. The theorem says that U is open if and only if whenever you have a sequence xn converging to x, okay, to some x where x is in U, then this xn's should be in U for all but finitely many. That means whenever you have a sequence xn converging to x, where x is a point of U, then what we require is that except finitely many, remaining all the elements of that sequence should be in U. Okay, uh, this should be true whenever for whatever sequence satisfying. Okay, this should, you can say for all sequence xn converging to some point x in U, then except finitely many elements of that xn, remaining all elements should be in U. Okay, proof is not at all difficult one. It is straightforward. You can start, if you start reading my this proof, you can understand. As say suppose U is open, we want to take U is open and take a sequence xn converging to some x in U. We want to show that this xn belongs to U except finitely many, remaining all should be there in U, right? Now as U is open and x is in U, by definition of an open set, what we know is that there exists a ball around x which is completely contained in U. Okay, now as xn converges to x, it is given to us, right? So for this epsilon, whatever we have for this epsilon greater than 0, there exists some stage, you can call it n, such that distance between xn comma x is less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to n. But this is same as saying that ball, this xn belongs to ball around x of radius epsilon for all n greater than or equal to n. But this bx, you can see here, this bx epsilon is contained in U. That shows that, that means, sorry, that means this xn's, because bx epsilon is contained in U, they belongs to for all n greater than or equal to n. What we have here is xn's belongs to U. So from n capital N stage onwards, all elements of the sequence xn are in U. So only finite, except finitely many, every element of that sequence is in U, right? Conversely, suppose assume that whenever you have a sequence converging to some x in U, then except finitely many, remaining all elements are there in U. With that assumption, we want to prove that U is open. So you to prove something is open or not, say suppose U is not open. What is meant by saying that U is not open? So if U is not open, that means at least there is some point X in U such that there is no ball around X. Okay, there is no ball around X which is completely contained in U. That means for all epsilon greater than 0, this Bx epsilon is not contained in U. So when we, what is meaning of saying that? There is at least one element in this ball which is not in that U. Okay, so in particular take epsilon is equal to 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4 and so on. So in the in particular take 1 by n form. So if you take epsilon is equal to 1 by n, then the ball around x of radius 1 by n is not contained in U. That means there is an element, you call it xn, okay, but xn is not in U, right? So say you can call it x1, x2, okay, x3. So you get a sequence now, okay, but they are not at all in U. And you can easily show that the sequence xn, whatever we have constructed, actually converges to x. So we get a contradiction because we are getting a sequence converging to x, but those elements of that sequence are not in U, right? As n tending to infinity, we know that this tends to 0, so therefore xn converges to x, right? Fine. These are all about some open sets. So what is next one is something called closed set, which is you can easily understand through help of open sets. So we say that a set F is closed if its complement, F complement, that is M minus F. Okay, if this is open, right? And then you can see some examples again. M and the whole metric space and empty set, they are closed sets. Okay, and every closed interval you can show that it is open, because if you take any a comma b, it's closed. its complement. What is its complement? Is minus infinity to open A, then open B to infinity, right? But we know that this is an open set and this is an open set, and union of open sets is open, so therefore you get that this is open, and hence it's A comma B is closed, right? And like how we proved for arbitrary union of open sets is open, so here you can prove that arbitrary intersection of closed sets is closed. Okay, that means if you take f i's, then f alpha, if you want you can call it, then alpha is in any indexing set, this is always closed. Okay, and proof is not at all difficult. You try to use it in terms of open sets, then you will get it. Okay. But when it comes to finite, then union when it comes to union, then only finite union of closed sets can become closed. Okay, and again proof is not at all difficult. Just take f1 f2 fn, they are closed, then their complements are open. Okay, then you take their intersection, then again use De Morgan laws, you get it. Okay. Fine. Again you can give a counter example for arbitrary union of closed sets need not be closed. So for example, take fn's, the closed interval 1 plus 1 by n comma 3. Okay, so what is the first one? For example, the first one is f1, which is 2 to 3. Okay, so if I call it, this is 2 and this is 3, this is f1. So our f1 is 2 comma 3. What is f2? F2 is 1 plus half, which is 3 by 2 comma 3, right? So where will be 3 by 2? This is 1.5, so somewhere here to here. So this much is your f1, then this much is your f2, right? Then and so on. Okay, so you can see that it's keep on expanding, it is going towards left and so on. So if you take union, then what obviously you should guess is that uh, yeah, where of course, because this is something like 1 plus something, so what you have to understand here is that there will be 1 here, so no interval will go above up to this, right? Not, it won't go left to this 1, because you have 1 plus something, right? Yes. So this intervals, if you start seeing this, what you can sense is that you may think that 1 may be there here, but 1 is not there in any of these intervals, because it is starting from 1 plus something, right? So what we can see is that it is actually open 1 and closed 3, which is not closed. Okay, 1 comma 3, right? Again you can take it as an exercise and prove that why 1 is not there. Obviously, because 1 is strictly less than 1 plus 1 by n for every n, so obviously 1 cannot be there in any one of these intervals, right? Okay, now what about what we have seen about open sets in a discrete matrix is every subset is open there, so every complement is also open there, so therefore every subset is also closed. So in a discrete matrix space, every set is open as well as every set is closed. Okay, that is the proof. And now uh, in a metric space, if a m comma d is a metric space, you can prove that. And if a is finite, if a is a finite set, then a is closed. So every finite set is closed in a any metric space, that we can prove. So we have already known about some property of closed set, that if you take finite union of a closed sets is closed. So if you want to show that a, say for example, a united by x1 x2 xn, then a can be written as union of this disjoint sets, singleton sets xi's. So if it is enough if we prove that singleton is closed, so if singleton set is closed, then every finite set will become closed set, right? So it is a question of showing that a singleton set x is closed, right? That is same as saying that this m minus x should be open. So take any element y here. If we take any element in y, we want to show that there exists a ball around y which is completely contained in m, right? Because y is outside x, so y is different from x. Therefore if you take distance between x comma y is strictly greater than 0, because as x is different from y, right? Simply take this as your epsilon, right? Then you can check that this, and if you construct a ball around y of radius epsilon, then obviously it is not there because distance should be strictly less than, but it is here, it is equal, right? So that shows that x is not in this, means this implies ball around y is completely contained in m minus x, right? Because only condition we want to check is that whether x belongs to this ball or not. Because x is not in this ball, so you can easily say that it is contained. Okay, that proves that this m minus x is open, so therefore singleton x is closed, right? And every finite set is finite union of the singleton, so hence it is closed. Okay, so what all we have observed here is that not every, you can say, just like when you consider door we say usually either it is open or closed, right? But sets are not like doors, because there are some sets which are neither open nor closed. So if for example take 0 comma 1, okay, so this is not closed as well as not open, so there is problem with the endpoints, right? So not sets, some, not every set, right, is either has to be closed or it has to be open. That is not the case. Okay. Now we give some characterization for closed set in terms of sequence, right? Just like how we have given characterization of open sets in terms of sequence. So what it says is that the following are equivalent. Take a metric space and take any set S, F, then F is closed if and only if at all you have a ball around X and whatever radius it may be. That means every ball around X, if at all it intersects, then the only possibility for that X, it should be in F. That means if a ball around some point is intersecting and for all different radiuses, then that X has to be in F. Then we say F is closed. Or in the other way, if at all a sequence from F, okay, if at all it converges to some X in M, then that limit, you can call it limit, that limit also should come from F. Then we can say that F is closed. So what two equivalent things we are giving here for a closed set, that if you have a neighborhood or ball around X, if every ball around X intersects that set F, where if F is closed, then that X has to come from F. Okay, or you take a sequence Xn from F, if at all it is converging to some point, then that point should come from F itself. So these are all characterization for closed sets. So if at all, for example, you want to show that some set is closed, then take a sequence from that set and say suppose it is converging to some point, then show that that point is in that set itself. Okay, and proof is not a difficult one. You want to show that whenever a set F is closed, then one implies two. Then we want to show that this intersection, consider this intersection, if at all it is non-empty for every epsilon, we want to show that X is in F, right? To show by contrary, suppose X is not in F. Suppose X is not in F, that means X is in F complement, but F is closed, so therefore F complement is open, right? F complement is open, so use the definition of open set, right? There exists an epsilon, that means there exists a ball which is completely contained in F complement. So therefore, obviously, because this ball is completely contained in the complement of F, so Bx epsilon intersection F has to be empty, which is a contradiction to the assumption that every ball around X is actually intersecting F, right? Therefore, X has to come from F, X cannot be outside F. Now 2 implies 3. What 2 implies 3 says? Whenever you have this condition, right? Then take a sequence Xn which converging to X, we want to show that X belongs to F. Okay, so start with Xn. So start with Xn is a sequence in F such that Xn converging to some X in M. Our claim is to show that X has to belongs to F. So what second says, when we can claim that X is in F, if every ball around X intersects F. So our idea is going to show that every ball around X is going to intersect F, okay, using this convergence given condition. Okay, now because this Xn is converging to x, so there exists some states after that. What we know is that this ball around x of this radius epsilon, xn's belongs to this, right? But remember, this our xn's are already coming from f, and xn's belongs to also belongs to this ball. So that shows that bx epsilon is actually intersecting f, whatever epsilon it may be, right? That shows that by second condition x should be in f. Now what is third implies 1. So whenever xn converging to x in M and that x is in f, then we want to show that f is closed. That means we want to show that its complement is open, right? So say suppose f complement is not open. So start with say f complement is not open. Then what we want to show is that we should get somewhere contradiction to the third assumption, right? So what is meant by saying something is not open? There exists some point here, okay, for which there is no ball around x. So bx epsilon is not contained in f complement, and this is true for every epsilon greater than 0. So in particular, take epsilon is equal to 1 by n form, then xn belongs to here but not here, right? So therefore xn belongs to f, and xn converging to x, and which is a contradiction, right? Because x belongs to f we are getting. So these are the proofs. You can go through it, and in next class we'll see some other properties using this open and closed sets. Like we can define another points like interior point, boundary point, and so on. Okay, fine. We'll stop here. We'll see in next class.